Hi, everybody. We're live with another Inspire View series and interview. My name is Cherrise Boucher, and I am a transformational life mentor and energy healer. A little bit about this series first before I introduce today's guest. I felt really inspired to put this together because I think it's so important for every person out there to incorporate what they're passionate about into their lives. Because when you weave something into your life that really lights you up and excites you, your soul thanks you for listening. And things start to happen and come into your life seemingly serendipitously, right? And things start to flow easier and stress is reduced and communication improves. And there's just so many beneficial factors to incorporating what you're passionate about. So all the people that I've introduced to you so far and will introduce to you throughout the rest of this year, I find have inspiring stories. They've overcome obstacles and experienced life in all its aspects and incorporated their passions into their lives. So they'll share some insights and tips they've found most useful to them throughout their lives that have helped them to get to where they are now. So I'm glad that you're here to join me on this journey to nurture the spark that feeds the fire of your passion. Today, I am privileged to introduce you to a woman who helps action takers with big dreams to create success in an authentic and soul-inspired way. Her technique makes success flow with ease and eliminates the feeling that it's hard work, which is super important to me. She has a unique combination of over 15 years of professional experience in marketing and communication, plus the ability to connect with soul energy and channel spirit guides. Combining the two means that she can help you discover and accept what your work is in the world, and to map out the steps that you need to take on your journey and crush any blocks or resistance that stand in the way. I'm honored to introduce you to Joanna Hennon.
It's Joanna Hennon.
Joanna,
there's no H. It's okay. It happens all the time, but I have to correct it. So.
I was reading your last name and still on your first. My brain was going faster than my mouth.
Anyway, thank you for having me on this series. I'm super thrilled to be here and to talk to you.
Yes, finally. I mean, we've seen each other around the internet for a while. So it's exciting to get to connect face to face, if not in person, because we're around the world from each other.
Indeed, yes.
Because you are. Tell everybody where you're at. And
I live in Brussels, Belgium. So I actually have quite an international story. I was born in Poland, and I grew up all over the world. So in theory, in passport related, I'm Polish. I live in Belgium. I grew up in New York, in the Philippines, in Korea, all over the place. So yeah, and I ended up here, and hopefully next year we're moving to Ireland, where my husband is from. So
that's exciting.
Yeah, that's what we're manifesting right now.
That's awesome. How exciting to live in so many different places. A lot of people that I've interviewed have done that. So it's that's inspiring for me, because I would love to do some traveling in my life too.
Well, you're welcome to come here.
I know. I'm good. That's really the goal. I'm trying to connect with people all over the world, so I have places to stay.
Clever.
So I guess let's start off with telling us a little bit about your journey that led you from like your past life in your career to where you are now, and helping other people connect with themselves.
Yeah, I think like most people, I had kind of a wake-up call at some point. So I was in a very stressful environment for a long time, and for a while, like I liked that, and after I had my son, I stopped liking it, and I was kind of needing more flexibility, and the environment wasn't giving me that, and I started just thinking about where my life was going, and I thought, this can't be it. Like, I still have 35 years until retirement. Like, it's not possible, And And I kind of, the first thing that happened was I made a really, really conscious decision to find what life is about for me. So I made, so I made that decision. I went through various steps trying to figure out, I'm like, okay, it has to be a process. Like there has to be a way of figuring this out. So I'm like, okay, we'll start with what I like and we'll see, what kinds of ideas of jobs, careers come to me. And I went through, I think my first idea, because I was like, okay, I love talking to people and, something fulfilling. And I decided I wanted to be a teacher until my husband reminded me that I'm not, I don't really like children so much. Except for my own.
I know how you feel.
And he was just like, I just remember, I was like, I'm going to be a teacher. And he was like, really?
It's adult education, right?
Then I was like, okay, adult education. and I went through all these steps. And while I was going through these steps, I had a nervous breakdown. So I collapsed at my job and I ended up off work for a few months. And that's kind of what really gave me the space to figure out, what I want to do or what I want to do next. Because I think it's really difficult. And that's where a lot of people kind of get tripped up. It's really difficult to figure out what you want to do because you're looking for this kind of big magical idea that will make everything okay, right? And that's not what it's about. It's about figuring out what your next step is that'll bring you joy and that feels right. And that'll then lead you to that big stuff, right?
Right.
So but and I'm really grateful to have had the breakdown. Like it wasn't pleasant at the time, but I'm really grateful to have had it because without it, I wouldn't have had the space to experience life in a different way and to make some choices and to start learning about, that's when I came across manifesting and the law of attraction and all these things. And I had the space to explore that, and then to move forward.
Yeah, it's important to take that time. Hopefully before a nervous breakdown happens, but usually that's what really kicks you in the butt to do it,
Well, yeah, it's the comfort zone thing, right? So until you have to change, if you're relatively comfortable, even if you're not super happy, like in a job situation, it's the same as with a relationship, I remember comparing that, that you don't want to, like if you have a boyfriend that's like, not great, but like not bad, right? Like it's okay. You're not gonna, it's hard to leave him until like, that something better is gonna come along. Right?
Right.
So I think,
analogy there.
I think that's what it is, like if you're kind of relatively comfortable and you don't have like 100% assurance that there's something better, then, why risk that comfort? So I think it's the same with the kinds of jobs that we have.
Yes, exactly. I agree because I'm actually kind of going through that right now, and I started writing a blog post about it. So I could totally relate to what you're saying. I'm coming to a crossroads in my life right now. So
cool.
Decisions to be made and, next steps planned because like I said, I'm a planner. So, and yeah, I've had the same full-time job for 9 years and because it was comfortable. So
yeah. So it does take some courage, right? It takes courage to take that next step. That's why it's kind of better to think about the small steps that are doable for you next, rather than think about this kind of grand idea of where you're going to end up. So,
right, small steps and decisive action because my job will not even be available by November.
Oh, okay. Well, so the universe is helping you too,
right? The universe is helping me right now, yes.
That's the same as the breakdown, right? So your way is a little bit different, but it's the same thing. It's something that happens that makes you think, okay, this is my chance, or maybe something can be different, or maybe there's a different way.
Exactly. Yeah, it really, it's kicking me in the butt to do something different.
Good.
Yeah. So in your experience up to this point, and from like what I'm saying now, because I'm sure I'll be able to relate to this. I can relate to this in the previous part of my life, and I can talk about it in that sense. And now I'm getting ready to do it again. So what do you wish you knew then that you know now, like before that breakdown you had and you were in that high stress job to actually kind of, and that rolls into taking that leap of faith to doing something that you actually enjoy and that you're passionate about?
You know, it's really
a multi-point questions.
Yeah, no, it's just that when I think about that place I was in the stressful job, I don't know if anything except for the breakdown would have been any help. I don't, because you're in that space, it's really difficult to see anything else. So the first thing that if you're unhappy, if you're in that stressed out, high strung place where you really don't see other options, the first thing to do, if you don't want to the universe to send you a breakdown, is to make that space for yourself. So take a couple of months of unpaid leave, or find a way to give yourself that space, because it's only then that you can see kind of what life can be like. I remember, like, when I was off work then, like, I would go, my doctor said I had to go outside every day. That was part of my recovery plan. And I just remember on one of my walks, we lived by a forest, and one of my walks, I just remember thinking, I feel so calm and good. And I was just like, I didn't know that life could feel like this. Like, I was just so used to the stress, and I had convinced myself that I liked it.
Right.
That I was just one of those people. I was really ambitious, and I was, thriving in this super stressful environment. And then it turned out that I wasn't, I really enjoyed the calm. So that was, and that couldn't have happened without that space that was gifted to me by the universe. But obviously that, you can do that in a different way, right? So yeah, I can't remember the other questions. That's not good.
Yeah, no. So, so what you know now.
Yeah. So what I know.
Take the space.
Take the space.
Yeah, that you wish you had taken the space. If you were talking to your other self back then, as the person you are now, you'd probably be like, Joanna, take some space. Yeah.
I think if I was talking to me back then, I would have talked about the idea that so much more is possible. Because when you're in that stressful situation, or like dead end job, or kind of mind numbing job, or whatever it is that you're looking to change, you can't see the options, right? And for me, it was a really slow process, but it was only after the breakdown that I started to see that there are other options. And I think that's that's one of the main things, that there are other options, and they will make you happy. That it's possible to do something else. Like, you don't have to rely on an employer if that's not what you want to do, right? That the universe will support you in other things, and that once you kind of get started, you see that there are so many people, so many beautiful women doing so many beautiful things in the world, and you can too. If they can, then you can.
That's right. That's right. And I think we've all probably gone through the phase of seeing, or at the beginning of this kind of journey that I think a lot of us are on, where we're coming to know ourselves better and follow more of a path that we enjoy, rather than one of, I have to do this kind of a thing. That we see that when you're beginning, you're like, oh my God, they're so lucky. How do they get to that place? How come they have that and I don't have that?
Yeah. And now it really annoys me when people say that to me, like, I had someone say to me, oh, you're so lucky that you're moving to Ireland. Like, lucky? Like, I'm doing a lot to manifest it, I'm actually working on goals. I'm putting things in place. It's not like, I was in my little office and somebody came in and say, hey, would you like to live on the coast in Ireland? We can do that. So it's funny, like, I mean, the whole luck, you make your own luck, and I really, really believe that. I mean, I'm not saying, that there aren't forces out there, because there are, and you do get support, but you have to kind of meet the universe halfway. I think that's actually something that Denise Duffield Thomas says, that you have to meet the universe halfway. And it's really true. Like, you have to do something as well. So you have to have the courage to, if not leave the job, then start exploring options, and take up something, like bring that joy into your life. And you just have to do that. And then the universe will send you more possibilities and more options and more ideas and that. And that's kind of how you get the ball rolling.
That's right. I agree. And Mike Dooley, I'm not sure if you're familiar with him, but I'm so excited.
I love Mike Dooley.
See him next week. So, yeah, and I'm reading like the 3rd book of his right now. It says the exact, you have to take action.
Yeah.
You can't just sit there and hope for something to happen. You have to take daily action and toward that. Otherwise, the universe can't just plop it into your existence.
No, and I think that's one of the things that I work with people on is abundance money, because that just comes up a lot for everybody. It's important to everybody, and that's one of those things, where you want to manifest a certain amount of money, but it's not about saying that I want to win the lottery and have $500,000, and then sitting back and letting that come to you. That's not it. So in my work, we call it inspired action. So you kind of tap into what is possible around your goal, and then you identify the steps that you can take towards that. There's still no guarantee, right? Because there are never any guarantees.
And you don't know how.
And you don't know
how. It will
how.
appear. It may come in a completely different way than you ever thought.
Yeah. But at the same time, it's very unlikely to come if you don't do anything towards it.
Exactly.
So at least, you're certainly going to make more money if you do stuff that might generate money than if you sit on your couch eating chips, right?
Yeah, because I don't think there's some hidden camera in there from Lay's, saying, hey, this person's sitting on their couch eating our chips.
That'd be good, though.
That'd be cool, wouldn't it? Look, I eat these chips. Put me on a commercial.
Yeah, I know. I look really good eating them. Really talented.
Oh, goodness. So also, I experienced this when I talk to people too. Incorporate, you often don't have to leave behind what you already know or what your existing self is to move into something that you'd find more pleasure in. Usually, and I can see, if you want to share how you've done that, you've incorporated your skills that you worked with in that stressful job into your current existence that you're much more passionate about.
Yeah, and the stuff you're doing is normally stuff you're good at. So there's no, so you will be able to use that. I mean, they might not be the focus of whatever you do next, but if you're working as an accountant, then you'll just have you don't have to become, someone who teaches others to be an accountant, or, it doesn't have to be that narrow, but those skills will definitely come in useful, right? And
right.
In my personal case, so I've worked in marketing communication pretty much since college. And, and those skills are definitely useful because, I mean, you have to be able, to speak in front of people or, or write a blog post. And so, all those writing and communication skills are coming in very, very handy. So that's really great. I certainly didn't leave that behind. I think it's a bit of a trap that, to want to, if you really hate what you're doing, you might be tempted to just kind of completely shut the door on it. Or if you're going through something painful, but I think it's really important to draw out the lessons and incorporate them as you move forward. And it doesn't have to only do with a job. So another example is relationships. When I was younger, I was in an abusive relationship, and that was when that finished in a kind of very dramatic way, it was very tempting to just completely close my door on that and kind of never think about it again, right? But that's not useful to growth. So what's useful to growth is understanding why it happened and what you learned from it, right? Because it happened for a reason. And if you're in any way spiritual, then that's a really important concept, the understanding that you chose certain experiences for certain reasons. And if you don't draw the lessons, then your next experience will have the same lessons.
Right, which would
right? Yeah, you don't want that. Yeah, which would suck, basically. Yeah. So I remember like when I was switching jobs a few years ago, and I was just desperate to switch jobs. And I remember a friend telling me, okay, like you're not finding the right one because you haven't learned what you need to learn here. She's like, do you want to learn it? Or do you want to go to the new one and experience the same kind of boss?
Very wise advice.
I'm like, I'll learn it. I'll learn it now.
It probably gave you a big aha moment,
Yeah.
like, oh my God, yeah, done. Learning.
Yeah. Learning right now. I'm ready. So yeah. So the idea is always to take what you're good at, leave behind what makes you miserable. I mean, by all means, that is, finding joy is the point of all this. But take what you're good at, and certainly take lessons. If you're in a situation where you're miserable, then there are lessons in there as well.
Yeah, I love that. Very good point. And
important.
Thank you for bringing that, because it's true. I mean, often we don't think about that. You just sit there and you go through your daily routine, and if you hate your job, you're like, oh my God, I've got to go do this, but I'm just getting a paycheck, right?
Yeah.
So
yeah,
but there's something there.
There's something there. You're learning, and there's something that you can draw out of that. And it's kind of like, I mean, there are so many analogies for this kind of looking for a magical solution to all your problems. And like when you're in a place like that with the job, you're thinking, oh, if only like I could set up my own business, then everything would be perfect and magical and lovely, right? And it's the same, like, it's just the same with all sorts of situations, right? Like, when I lose weight, I'll start doing videos, right? It's the same thing, and it's not true, because when you get to that end point, when you lose the weight, when you start your own business and leave the job, you're still you, right? Motherhood is the same thing. Like I thought that when I like just when you get pregnant and you have a baby, you magically become a patient person.
No.
No. I was really upset to find out that it was exactly the same. Like nothing changed, except that now I had this thing that I had to take care of, and I didn't know how.
Yeah. Yeah. I know. So I remember 17 years ago when I took my daughter home, after I had her, and standing there going, what now? There should be a tag with instructions here.
And you should be gifted certain, characteristics that a mom should have, like patience, Right. So it's the same sort of thing. Like you're not going to magically become a confident, success-oriented person who, takes care of themselves and their needs and magically, that's not going to happen. If you're not that person now, leaving the job isn't going to help you.
Right.
Sorry, but that's
right.
Yeah.
But there are skills that you can practice to become more of something that you might need.
Yeah.
And I feel, and when you stretch yourself, and I know it's a bit of a push to do something because we find resistance a lot to doing certain things, but once you do it, you're like, oh my God, I could totally do this. And then it raises the bar, so you can actually go further than you thought you could.
Yeah, indeed. And then so you can use the time when you're still in a job to practice that, right? So that when you leave the job, it's already kind of a habit to use your time for learning and growing, because that's what's, you'll be kind of faced with that a lot, after the transition. Or even more, you'll be faced with a lot of stuff. So that's really important to kind of learn to value yourself and your skills already now, before you make any drastic changes that you would, you hope will give you happiness.
Right. So when you work with people, what kind, could you just kind of outline like how you work with people and spirit guides and everything to help them along this path?
Well, my whole kind of thing is that we have access to so much wisdom, and I don't feel that a lot of us are using it, and I'm the kind of ambitious spiritual. I don't kind of do it, for for the beauty of connecting, or I don't, any of that. It's not that for me. For me, it's really to get information that I could then use to create something better for myself, something that lights me up. So that's what I do with my clients. I always I always bring in spirit guides when we talk, and so I can show them a different, wider perspective, and a wider pool of choices, even that are available in the universe. Because that's what I just actually this morning I recorded a video about this, because I'm running this this free training on spirit guides and your business, and how they can help your business. And I asked my own spirit guides to help me articulate why this training is important, and why you should attend, basically. And what they gave me is super interesting, and I love the phrasing. It's so working with spirit guides adds value, because they know that you have unlimited potential, right? So as a human being, we're stuck in doubt and limitation. So I can only do this and this. I don't have enough time. I don't have enough space. I have all these other things in life. I'm not good at this. I'm not good at public speaking. I'm not a great writer. We focus on the limitations, whereas they, from their perspective, they can see your unlimited potential, because that's what you are, your energy, your unlimited potential. That's your essence, right? And they can see that. So the guidance that they give, it gets you to play bigger. It gets you to expand. And that's why it's important. And that's why it's important in business specifically, because we get stuck in those, in those little things. Right. All the time, right? And they show you that you can, you can go bigger. You can always go bigger.
Yeah, that's important, and it gives you the feeling that someone's rooting for you. You have support.
Yeah, that's actually came up as well. That's something that I like. I mean, now things on my journey are going a lot smoother, but when I was starting out, they weren't. And I remember workshops I ran where nobody showed up, and I would be crying, and then I remember I always said, instead of, I got to a point where I wasn't immediately turning to the option of quitting. I would say, okay, if they sent me on this path, it's not to fail. Right? So if I ended up on this path and everything happens for a reason, and everything is right in the end, then I can't fail. I don't believe that. I don't believe that they would set me up to fail. That's awesome. I cannot believe. So then, when stuff happens and people don't sign up, there's another reason, right? You don't quit because you're like, well, that's not possible. There must be something else going on. And that's really comforting to know that there's somebody there who knows that you can succeed.
That's right.
And wants you to.
And everything that you've done, you can use again. So, you do a workshop and nobody shows up, you still have the workshop done, right? Yeah. So you can revamp and send it out there again.
Yeah. In fact, interestingly, the two kind of more, because it's not that it doesn't happen to me anymore, by the way, just so we're clear, when I say that my path is smoother, is because I can deal with things differently, because I've learned how to deal with them, right? I don't go into despair when nobody shows up. But, it happens to everybody that you put something out there and nobody signs up. It happened to me right before the summer. So I was running something on spirit guides and nobody wanted it. And my two more recent examples of that happening had to do with me not thinking big enough. So in both those cases, those courses were not right because they were part of something bigger. So it's interesting, it's a really, really interesting process then, if that happens, to go in and see why, what the message is, right?
Right. Great insight.
That was fun.
I love it. Nothing is ever wasted. No experience is ever wasted.
No, definitely not. Definitely not. There's something you can take from everything, I think, you experience, everything.
Do you practice anything regularly that that you think might be helpful for other people on their journey?
Yeah, I do. And it's only recently that I started doing things more regularly. and that's resistance, right? So when we first start, we're more in the doubt and fear space. And we don't really know how to handle the doubt and fear. And we're the ego then is very, very resistant to doing anything that could help you, that could move you forward. And I actually started thinking about it differently when I was listening to some Abraham Hicks stuff. And, and Esther was channeling Abraham, and it was something about her and her meditation practice. And Esther said, no, Abraham was telling the story, and he said, yeah, so Esther said that she doesn't have time to meditate. And Abraham said, and we laughed, that she doesn't have the time to do the only thing that will ever make a difference.
Ah.
And I was just like, oh my God.
Gives me chills.
I know. The only thing that will ever make a difference.
Wow. Yeah.
is making that space for connection, with your core, with the guides, with whatever it is that you feel that connection with nature, whatever that is. But you have to make that space. So when I heard that, I was like, oh crap, so I can't really, like I keep complaining that things aren't going fast enough. And yet it seems that I'm not willing to do, the 10 minutes a day that it takes.
Right. And
that was kind of really kind of in your face truth. That thankfully I was ready to hear.
Yeah. And it's funny that you do hear the things that you need to hear right at the time. Like you could just be kind of having something you're listening to in the background while you're doing other things, and then it'll like grab your attention, and that's exactly what you need to hear at that moment.
Yeah. No, and everything changed when I heard that. And I'm not saying I meditate every day. I'm not actually a big meditator, to be honest. So I don't. Yeah.
I tried.
Yeah, I'm not really, but I do feel into the energy. So I talk to my guides all the time. I did that anyway, but now I really sit down and do it in quiet and do it on, on the things that matter. So for my spirit guide course, it's in all my examples because I just did that this morning. That's why, but it's really, it applies to anything. I sat down and said, okay, what are we teaching? Right? And let it come. And I have loads of ideas, whereas I was a little bit stuck before on what was coming out. I couldn't put it together. So I make space for that. And I also make a lot of space for mindset stuff. Mm-hmm. So for working on my beliefs, for figuring out what I believe about money, about my success in business, about, how good I am at what I do. And if there's anything negative that comes up, I'm very good at, at working through it. I do EFT almost every day. That's something I would really actually recommend for people to try, because it's an easy thing to do that doesn't really require that much, uncomfortable stuff.
Yeah. I've been resistant to doing that. I just always feel like when people bring it up, I'm like, what's that?
Shocking.
but maybe that's because it would do some good for me if I actually did it.
Indeed. So that's, and that's always a thing. But what I recommend when people ask me that question about kind of what I do regularly, what I really recommend is trying everything that's out there and figuring out what works for you.
Yeah.
Right? Because that's what it's all about. It's not about you repeating, reconstituting my routine.
Exactly.
I've put together the stuff that works for me, that I see gives me results, right? So for some people, that'll be affirmations. For some people, that'll be journaling. For some people, that'll be EFT. For some people, that'll be a mixture or meditation or intuitive arts. Like I work with intuitive art a lot, and that's one of my tools. And, for other people, it'll be walking, whatever. But you just make sure you do that. You make sure you make the space to explore what those tools are for you, and how to incorporate them into your day.
Yeah, I love that. Because you take people's suggestions and then you find what gels.
Yeah,
because
try it.
If it's like a struggle for you to do this one thing, then try something else, because eventually you'll find the thing that you enjoy.
Yeah. So the things can then be grouped by result, right? So if you don't like EFT, It doesn't mean, that you can not do EFT. Maybe I should explain. EFT is tapping. It's emotional freedom technique. It's like acupuncture, but without needles. It's much better. But so that's a way of shifting energy, right? So if you don't like tapping, if you don't like EFT, the answer is not, to, I don't know, to like visualize your success instead, because that's a completely different thing, right? So you need to find something else, some other tool that will shift the energy. And there's lots of things out there. You can do it with the help of spirit guides. You can use access consciousness. There's lots of things, but then you have to find something that has that effect. And then for, introspection, there'll be other things. For meditation, I always suggest, like, if you can't meditate, if you don't like to meditate, then drawing mandalas is a really good way, or coloring mandalas is a really good way, because it gives you the same result. You quiet the mind, right? And you let the soul wisdom come through.
Yeah.
So it's the same.
That's a fantastic point, that there's different means to the same end. Yeah. So just explore which one.
Yeah, exactly. Mm-hmm. And then build your practice, on a combination of those.
Love it. Yeah. Good stuff.
I'm glad you like it.
Yeah, awesome stuff. So I'm trying to keep an eye on this time, because I've said I really sucked at doing the 30-minute intention that I had for this whole series, because everybody has such awesome stuff. But you have a gift, so let's kind of wind it up with the gift that you have for everybody who watches this series. And I'll just let everybody know right now that you can find that on my website, CherriseBoucher.com. Over on the Passion-Based tab, I've got part 1 and part 2 of the series for this year, and all the links, the bios, and everything is on there.
Right. So I have a 10-step course on connecting with your intuition, which includes a whole bunch of exercises that will do that. So it'll ask you some questions about why you want to work with intuition. And intuition for me kind of combines all the things we talked about, the spirit guides and the soul wisdom. They're basically kind of what you know for yourself. So yeah, it's kind of my favorite exercises that are in there. It's a really nice little course.
Yeah, awesome. And you've got lots of good stuff coming, so everybody should find you on Facebook too, so they can be kept in the loop on the exciting coming up.
Yeah, definitely. Please, yeah, that'd be great. So you can find me online at createyourworld.me. Although by the time this goes live, I might have my new website up, and that would be joannahennon.com. So we'll see. And on Facebook, if you just look for Joanna Hennon, you'll find me. I also run a group on there called Create Your World. I think the link is facebook.com/youcancreateyourworld.
Awesome.
So.
Awesome.
Cool.
And I will share your stuff too whenever I see it, or send it to me so that I do see it.
Awesome.
Sometimes I don't see everything.
Yeah. Really? You don't live on Facebook? No.
No. And then by the time somebody's posted something, by the time I get on there, it's like way down the thread somewhere or something. You could always do a little like tap Cherrise, tag.
I'll do that. Thank you.
Absolutely, because you've got some great stuff, and it's inspirational, and it's a different way to connect, and working on a higher level to move forward. And I love these tips, because it's so important to know that we're not just here all by ourselves, plugging along till the end.
Well, and on that depressing thought,
there's support. You have support. You're not by yourself.
No, never by yourself. Never by yourself. It's it's very important.
Yes. Well, thank you so much for finally connecting.
Yay! Yeah, thank you for having me. This was really fun. The conversation was super fun.
Super fun. We'll do it again.
Yes, definitely.
Thank you, everybody. And don't forget, CherriseBoucher.com. And you can find the whole interview series there and on my YouTube channel. Have a great rest of your day.